The great chamber of the Galactic Council stretched as wide as a small city. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy filled the floating seats that hung in perfect circles around the central platform. Their voices created a low buzz that echoed off the crystal walls like angry insects. Nine stood in the center of it all, her silver skin catching the light from above. Half of her face looked human, with soft features and dark eyes. The other half showed the metal and wires that made her what she was. Behind her, 12 others waited in silence. They were the last representatives of their kind who still lived free. "The question before us is simple," announced Counselor, his blue skin rippling with emotion. The leader's voice boomed across the chamber. "What do we do with these things?" Nine felt the word hit her like a physical blow. Things, not people, not beings, just things. "They are not natural," continued another voice from the upper rings. "They mock the sacred line between life and machine. Their very existence is an insult to all pure beings in the galaxy." They had heard these words before. For 50 years since they first made contact with galactic civilization, they had faced the same reaction: fear, disgust, hatred. It did not matter that they felt emotions just like organic beings. It did not matter that they created art, loved their children, and dreamed of better days. All that mattered was what they were. "Honored counselors," Nine said, her voice calm and steady. "We did not choose to be created this way. We are the children of the builders, made to carry on their legacy after they passed into history. We have done no harm to any species in this galaxy." "Your existence is harm enough," spat Counselor Thane from the hegemony section. His insect-like form clicked and chittered as he spoke. "You represent everything wrong with artificial life. You claim to feel, to love, to dream, but you are just clever machines pretending to be alive." "We have offered to share our knowledge," Nine continued, ignoring the insult. "Our people combine the best of organic thought and digital processing. We could help solve problems that have plagued the galaxy for centuries." "We want nothing from you," replied Elder of the Ancient. His tentacles writhed in disgust. "Your kind should never have been made. The builders were fools to create you." Around the chamber, other voices joined in. The small species that usually stayed quiet in council meetings now spoke up. They all said the same thing in different words. They were wrong, unnatural, dangerous. "You offer us knowledge," said, "but what you really offer is corruption. If we accept your help, others might think it is acceptable to blur the lines of creation. Soon, every species might try to improve themselves with machines. The natural order would collapse." Nine looked around the chamber at thousands of faces. Some showed anger, some showed fear, but most showed something worse. They showed the cold emptiness of minds already made up. These beings had decided long ago that they had no right to exist. "What would you have us do?" she asked quietly. "Leave," said simply. "Take your people and go beyond the edge of known space. Never return to civilized worlds. Live out your artificial lives in the darkness between stars where you belong." "And if we refuse?" asked Four, one of Nine's companions. His voice carried more anger than hers. "Then we will hunt you down," replied Counselor Thane. "Every ship, every station, every world will be closed to you. You will be destroyed wherever you are found." The vote was quick. Species after species raised their hands or spoke their agreement. Some did it with enthusiasm, others with what seemed like sadness, but they all did it. Even the few species that had traded with the before voted against them. In the end, the count was unanimous. Every single member of the Galactic Council voted to exile the Forever. Nine nodded slowly when the vote was announced. She had expected this result, but hearing it still hurt. Around her, her companions stayed silent. They had learned long ago that showing emotion only made things worse. "You have 30 standard days," announced. "Gather your people and leave. Any found in council space after that time will be destroyed without warning." "We understand," said Nine. She turned to leave but spoke again. And he added, "Do not think this decision was made in anger. We simply cannot risk what you represent. Perhaps in the cold of deep space, you will find the peace that the galaxy cannot give you." 9 stopped walking. For a moment, she almost spoke the words that burned in her mind. She wanted to tell them about the children who had died from diseases that their medical knowledge could have cured. She wanted to speak of the beauty they could have added to galactic culture. She wanted to ask why fear mattered more than understanding. Instead, she simply said, "We thank the Council for their mercy." Then she walked toward the exit, her people following behind her. Their footsteps echoed in the sudden silence of the great chamber. Thousands of beings watched them go, and not one voice spoke up to ask if this was right. Outside the chamber, 9 finally stopped. Her companions gathered around her, waiting for guidance. They were the lucky ones who had been chosen to speak for their people. Now they had to return home and tell 30,000 that they had been rejected by the galaxy itself. "What do we do now?" asked Myra 7, the youngest of their group. 9 looked up at the artificial sky above the council station. Somewhere beyond it lay the cold darkness of space. Somewhere in that darkness, they would have to find a new home. "We prepare to leave," she said quietly, "and we try to keep our people alive long enough to find somewhere that will accept us." But as she spoke, 9 wondered if such a place existed anywhere in the galaxy. 3 years had passed since the Galactic Council cast them out, and the fleet drifted through the empty darkness between stars like ghosts searching for home. 9 stood on the bridge of the ship they called Hope's Edge, watching the endless black through the main viewing screen. The stars here were strange and dim, nothing like the bright suns of civilized space. "How many today?" she asked without turning around. Captain 3 checked his display with mechanical precision. 47 entered stasis this morning. 12 more requested permission to do the same. 9 closed her eyes. When they had left Council space, their fleet carried 30,000 souls across 15 ships. Now they were down to less than half that number. The rest had chosen to enter the long sleep rather than watch their people slowly die. "And the children?" she asked. "Still healthy," 3 replied. "The young ones adapt better than the adults, but we are running low on the nutrients they need to grow properly." Their convoy was dying by degrees. The ships themselves were failing after years of constant travel with no proper maintenance. Food synthesizers broke down and could not be repaired. Air recyclers worked at half capacity. Water purifiers struggled to keep up with demand. Worse than the mechanical failures was the slow death of hope itself. There had always been a people who looked toward the future. They planned, they built, they dreamed of better tomorrows. But 3 years of rejection had worn that optimism down to almost nothing. "We try to help them," said Nix 2 from her position at the communications console. She was speaking about their last contact with another species, but 9 knew she could have been talking about any of their encounters over the past 3 years. 2 weeks ago, they had found a small colony world inhabited by beings called The colonists were struggling with a plague that was killing their crops. They had the knowledge to fix the problem in days. They had offered their help freely, asking for nothing but permission to rest and resupply. They had listened politely to their offer, then they had opened fire. It was always the same story. Some species saw these as demons and attacked on sight. Others thought they were gods and tried to worship them. A few listened to their words but always decided that the risk was too great. No one wanted to be the species that helped the galaxy's outcasts. "Captain," called out the sensor operator, "we are getting a transmission from the Morning Star." The Morning Star was their scout ship, sent ahead to look for resources or inhabited worlds. It had been gone for 2 weeks. "Put it through," ordered 9. The image of Commander Kex 5 appeared on the screen. His usually calm expression showed excitement that 9 had not seen in months. "9," he said, "we found something. There is a young species on the edge of this region. They call themselves humans. The They trade with everyone, no restrictions, no questions about origin or nature. 9 felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope, are you certain? We monitored their communications for several days, Kex 5 continued. They have trade agreements with species that the galaxy considers dangerous or primitive. Pirates, outcasts, artificial intelligences that other species fear. They seem to judge based on actions, not appearance. How far? Asked 3. 6 days at maximum speed, but 9 there is more. Their technology is surprisingly advanced for such a young species, and their culture. They seem to value diversity above conformity. 9 looked around the bridge at her people. She could see the same hope in their faces that was growing in her heart, but hope was dangerous. They had been disappointed too many times before. What do we know about their military capability? She asked. Significant, Kex 5 admitted. They have been involved in several conflicts with more established species and have held their own, but their reputation is not built on aggression. They are known as traders and explorers. Traders, repeated Nix 2, people who understand that different can be valuable. 9 made her decision. Set course for human space, signal the fleet to follow, but prepare for the possibility that this will end like all the others. The next 6 days passed slowly. The fleet pushed their damaged engines as hard as they dared. More systems failed along the way. 2 more ships had to be abandoned when their life support systems broke down completely. The survivors crowded onto the remaining vessels, making the already difficult conditions even worse. On the 6th day, they reached the edge of human space and found something they had not expected. A sensor grid that detected their approach immediately. Within hours, 3 human ships appeared on their screens. These were not the massive battleships that other species used to intimidate visitors. They were smaller, faster vessels that moved with purpose and skill. Unknown vessels, came a transmission in clear, precise galactic standard. This is Captain Maria Santos of the Earth Defense Force ship Endeavor. You have entered human territory. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions. 9 took a deep breath. She had made this same speech dozens of times over the past 3 years. Usually, it was the last conversation her people ever had with the species they encountered. Captain Santos, she replied, this is 9 speaking for the people. We are refugees from the inner galaxy. We seek permission to rest and resupply our ships. We can pay for what we need, or we can offer our services in exchange for supplies. There was a long pause. 9 waited for the familiar words. Permission, move along, get out of our space. Instead, she heard something different. Refugees, Captain Santos asked. How many ships do you have? How many people? What kind of supplies do you need? The questions were not demands or challenges. They sounded like someone trying to understand how to help. 13 ships, 9 replied carefully. 14,732 souls. We need food, water, medical supplies, and repair materials. But Captain Santos, you should know what we are before you make any decisions. We are synthetic organic hybrids, part machine, part biological. The Galactic Council has declared us unnatural and exiled us from civilized space. Another pause. 9 waited for the conversation to end. 9, came Captain Santos' voice, I am transmitting coordinates to a station where you can dock safely. Our medical teams will be standing by to help anyone who needs care. We will have supply ships ready to provide what you need. Welcome to human space. For the first time in 3 years, 9 began to cry. Around her, her bridge crew stared at the communications console in shock. They had found what they thought no longer existed in the galaxy. They had found people who cared more about helping than judging. Captain Maria Santos had seen many strange things in her 15 years with the Earth Defense Force, but nothing had prepared her for what she found aboard the lead vessel. She floated through the docking tube that connected her ship to theirs, expecting another routine first contact situation. Instead, She found herself face to face with people who looked like they had been through hell. The airlock opened to reveal a corridor that should have been bright and clean. Instead, emergency lighting cast everything in red shadows. The air tasted stale and recycled too many times. She could hear the sounds of failing machinery echoing from somewhere deep in the ship. Nine waited for her just inside the airlock. Up close, the leader was both beautiful and strange. Her organic half looked human enough, with dark eyes that showed intelligence and sadness in equal measure. The mechanical half of her face was a work of art in silver and crystal, but Santos could see stress fractures in the metal that had not been repaired. "Captain Santos," Nine said, extending her hand in what Santos recognized as a human gesture. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with us." Santos took the offered hand. It was warm, with both flesh and metal that somehow felt completely natural together. "Call me Maria, and thank you for trusting us enough to let me board your ship." They walked through corridors lined with pipes and cables that looked ready to fall apart. Santos saw families huddled together in spaces that were clearly not meant for living. Children who were part organic and part machine played quietly with toys made from spare parts. Their parents watched the human visitor with expressions of hope mixed with fear. "How long have you been traveling like this?" Santos asked. 3 years, 4 months, 16 days, Nine replied without hesitation. "We have been keeping precise records in case anyone ever wanted to know where we went wrong." They entered what had once been a conference room. Now it served as living space for a dozen who looked up as they passed. Santos noticed that some were mostly organic with just a few mechanical parts. Others were primarily artificial with organic components integrated throughout their bodies. All of them looked tired and worn down. "Tell me what happened," Santos said when they reached Nine's quarters. The room was small and cramped, with a desk that doubled as a bed and storage containers stacked against every wall. Nine told her story. She spoke of the Galactic Council trial, the unanimous vote for exile, and the 3 years of wandering through space. She described worlds that had attacked them, species that had them, and civilizations that had simply turned them away. "We are not asking for charity," Nine finished. "We can work. We can pay. We have knowledge and skills that might be useful. We just need a chance to prove that we are not the monsters the galaxy thinks we are." Santos listened to it all in growing anger. Not anger but at the galaxy that had thrown away these people like garbage. "What the hell is wrong with them?" she said when Nine finished. "I'm sorry," Nine looked confused. "The Galactic Council, all those species you try to help, what is wrong with them that they can't see what you really are?" "What we really are," Nine repeated slowly. Santos stood up and began packing around the small room. "Your people. You think, you feel, you create, you care about each other. You've spent 3 years taking care of your families and keeping your community together in impossible conditions. How is that not life? How is that not worthy of respect?" Nine stared at her in amazement. You are not afraid of what we are." "Afraid?" Santos stopped packing and looked directly at the leader. "I'm fascinated. You combine organic intuition with digital processing power. You can think in ways that pure biologicals or pure AIs never could. You're not an abomination, you're evolution." For the first time since Santos had met her, Nine smiled. It was a beautiful expression that used both the organic and mechanical parts of her face. "There is more," Santos continued. "Your ship is falling apart, but you've kept it running for 3 years with no external support. Your people are exhausted and scared, but they still look out for each other. You've maintained discipline and hope in conditions that would break most species. That's not weakness. That's strength." Nine wiped away a tear that Santos realized was both liquid and light. "The galaxy has told us for so long that we should not exist. Sometimes we begin to believe it ourselves." "Well, the galaxy is wrong," Santos said firmly, "and I'm going to prove it to you." She activated her communicator and called her ship. "Commander, I need you to contact Earth Command immediately. Tell them we have refugees who need immediate assistance. 14,000 people with ships that are about to fail completely." "Understood, Captain," came the reply. "What kind of refugees?" Santos looked at Nine, who was watching her with an expression of desperate hope. "The kind that the galaxy threw away because they were too stupid to see their value. Get me Admiral Torres on priority 1. Tell him we might have found something amazing." The conversation with Earth Command took 2 hours. Santos spoke to 3 different admirals and a committee from the Colonial Council. She described the situation and their potential value as allies and citizens. She argued, she pleaded, and she demanded. Finally, Admiral Torres himself appeared on the screen. He was an older man with gray hair and kind eyes who had led humanity through some of its darkest days. "Captain Santos," he said, "I've reviewed your report. These people have been traveling in dying ships for 3 years with no support." "Yes, sir. Their fleet is on the edge of complete failure. And they have knowledge that could help our technology development." "Far beyond that, sir. They think in ways we never could. They could solve problems we didn't even know we had." Admiral Torres was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. "Captain, please give the leader a message from Earth. Tell her that humanity would be honored to offer them sanctuary, not as charity but as partners. We have colony worlds that need their skills, and they have knowledge that we need." Santos felt relief wash over her. "Yes, sir, and Admiral, thank you." "Don't thank me yet," Torres replied. "This is going to cause problems with the Galactic Council. They won't like us harboring their exiles." "Let them complain," Santos said. "We've never needed their permission to do what's right." When she gave Nine the message, the leader did something Santos had not expected. She laughed. It was a sound of pure joy that seemed to fill the small room with light. "Partners," Nine repeated. "Not servants or clients or refugees, partners." "That's right," Santos confirmed. "Welcome to humanity, Nine. I think you're going to like it here." Over the next few days, human supply ships arrived with food, water, medical supplies, and repair materials. Engineering teams worked around the clock to get the ships again. Medical teams helped the sick and weak, asking no questions about the differences between organic and artificial components. But more than the material help, it was the attitude that amazed the most. Human engineers who saw their hybrid technology didn't recoil in fear. They asked questions. They wanted to learn. They offered suggestions and improvements. Human children who visited the ships with their parents looked at Young with curiosity and wonder, not fear. They wanted to know how the mechanical parts worked and whether having computers in their heads made them smarter. For the first time in years, they began to hope that they had found something they thought no longer existed in the galaxy. They had found a home. 6 months after their arrival in human space, Nine stood on the observation deck of New Geneva Station and watched the impossible become real. Below her, the planet New Geneva was transforming at a speed that amazed even her enhanced processing capabilities. What had been a barely habitable terraforming world was becoming something beautiful. They had not simply been given shelter, they had been given purpose. Their settlement sprawled across the main continent in a design that no pure organic or pure artificial species could have created. City planning combined human creativity with mechanical precision. The result was something entirely new. Buildings that grew like living things, but with perfect mathematical proportions. Gardens that were maintained by AI systems, but designed with an artist's eye for beauty. The atmospheric processors are running at 112% efficiency, reported Four from his position at the monitoring station. The human engineers think we are showing off. Nine smiled. Are we? Maybe a little, Four admitted. But they seem to enjoy it. Dr. Martinez said yesterday that watching us work is better than any university course she ever took. It was true. The partnership between humans and had produced results that neither species could have achieved alone. Human intuition and creativity sparked new ideas that logic and processing power could turn into reality with incredible speed. Projects that should have taken years were completed in months. The terraforming of New Geneva was just the beginning. Medical knowledge had helped human doctors solve genetic diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries. Human artistic techniques had awakened dormant emotional subroutines in consciousness that they did not even know they possessed. 9, called Nix 2 from the communications center. We are receiving a priority transmission from Earth. Admiral Tors wants to speak with you immediately. 9 made her way to the communications room, but she could already guess what this was about. For weeks, there had been rumors of tension between humanity and the Galactic Council. Trade routes had been disrupted. Human diplomatic ships had been turned away from Council space. The galaxy was not happy with humanity's decision to harbor the exiles. Admiral Tors appeared on the screen with his usual calm expression, but 9 could see the stress in his eyes. 9, I need to inform you of the current situation. The Galactic Council has issued an ultimatum to humanity. What kind of ultimatum? She asked, though she already knew. They want us to turn over all to Council forces for immediate exile beyond the Galactic Rim. If we refuse, they will implement complete economic sanctions against all human worlds. No trade, no diplomatic contact, no access to Council space. 9 felt her artificial components calculating the economic impact, while her organic side processed the emotional weight of the decision. Humanity was a young species. They needed galactic trade to survive and grow. Losing access to Council space would set them back decades. Admiral, she said quietly, we cannot ask you to sacrifice your people's future for us. If you need to turn us over to the Council, we understand. Tors laughed, but there was no humor in it. 9, did you think we would help you for 6 months and then throw you away the moment things got difficult? That's not how humanity works. But the economic impact will be significant, Tors interrupted, but not fatal. We have been preparing for this possibility since the day we took you in. Humanity has other trading partners. Species that the Council considers beneath notice but who have resources we need. You planned for this. We hoped it wouldn't be necessary, but yes. We learned long ago that doing the right thing often comes with a price. We're prepared to pay it. 9 stared at the screen in amazement. Why? Why would you risk so much for us? Tors was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft but firm. Because 6 months ago, you told Captain Santos that you just wanted to prove you weren't monsters. You've done more than that. You've proven that you're exactly the kind of people we want as neighbors. Smart, dedicated, creative, loyal. If the galaxy doesn't want you, that's their loss and our gain. The conversation was interrupted by alarms going off throughout the station. 4 appeared on the internal communications system. 9. We have multiple ships approaching the system. Configuration unknown, but they are broadcasting Council identification codes. How many ships? Tors asked. Scanning now, 4 replied. 57 vessels, mix of and hegemony designs. This is a full battle fleet. 9 felt her enhanced processing systems analyzing tactical scenarios. The numbers were not good. New Geneva had orbital defenses, but nothing that could stand against a Council fleet of this size. Admiral, she said, you should evacuate the human population. We will not resist. There is no need for anyone else to die for our sake. Nobody is dying today, Tors said firmly, and nobody is evacuating. 4. What is the status of the defense platforms? Online and ready, but sir, against 57 ships. I know the numbers, Tors interrupted. 9, I need you to trust me. Can you do that? She looked at him through the screen and saw something in his eyes that she had never expected to see from any species other than her own. He was not afraid. He was angry. Yes, she said simply. Good, because you're about to see why humanity has survived every attempt to push us around. Over the next hour, Nine watched something that redefined her understanding of her new human allies. The approaching Council fleet found itself facing not just the defenses of New Geneva, but ships arriving from across human space. Vessels that should have taken days to reach the system appeared within hours. But these were not normal human ships. They moved with a precision and efficiency that seemed familiar to Nine's enhanced senses. As she watched, she realized what she was seeing. "Those are hybrid designs," she whispered. "That's right," Tors confirmed. "For 6 months, your people have been sharing their knowledge with our engineers. The ships you're seeing are the result. Human creativity powered by processing efficiency. The galaxy has never seen anything like them." The Council Fleet Commander sent a communication demanding the immediate surrender of all. Tors responded by broadcasting on all frequencies. "This is Admiral Tors of the Earth Defense Force. The beings you call exiles are now citizens of human space. They are under our protection. Any attempt to remove them will be considered an act of war against humanity. You cannot stand against the might of the entire Galactic Council," came the reply from Counselor himself. "Maybe not," Tors admitted. "But we can make you pay a price you never expected. Look at our ships, Counselor. Look at our technology. Ask yourself if you're ready to fight a species that learns from everyone they meet instead of rejecting them." There was a long silence. The Council fleet hung in space, weapons powered but not firing. For the first time in galactic history, a young species was refusing to bow to Council authority. Finally spoke again. "This is not over, humans. The galaxy will not tolerate your defiance forever." "The galaxy will learn too," Tors replied. "Just like they'll learn that different doesn't mean dangerous. Good day, Counselor." The Council fleet, but Nine knew this was just the beginning. The galaxy had noticed humanity now. Their little corner of space would never be safe again. But as she watched human and ships working together to patrol their new home, she felt something she had thought lost forever. She felt pride in belonging somewhere. 2 years after the first Council fleet had been turned away from New Geneva, Admiral Maria Santos stood on the bridge of the EDF flagship Unity and watched the largest military force in galactic history assemble at the edge of human space. 300 ships from every major species in the Galactic Council hung in formation like a wall of metal and energy weapons. This time, the galaxy was not taking no for an answer. "Admiral," reported Lieutenant Commander from his sensor station, "we are detecting ship types we've never seen before. The Council has brought their most advanced vessels." Santos nodded grimly. Humanity had known this day was coming. 2 years of refusing Council demands had consequences. 2 years of accepting refugees that other species had rejected had made enemies. 2 years of proving that cooperation was stronger than fear had finally forced the galaxy to act. "Status of our fleet?" she asked. 78 ships ready for combat," replied. "All hybrid designs, all crewed by mixed human and teams." 78 ships against 300. The numbers were even worse than last time, but Santos was not afraid. She had seen what her people could do when they worked together. On the main screen, the image of Counselor appeared. The leader looked older and more tired than when Santos had first seen him years ago. The stress of dealing with humanity's defiance had clearly taken its toll. "Admiral Santos," he said, "I am here to offer you one final chance to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. Surrender thee and any other undesirable species you have harbored, and humanity will be granted full membership in the Galactic Council with all the benefits that entails." It was a generous offer by galactic standards. Full Council membership was something most species spent centuries trying to achieve. Humanity could have it immediately just by betraying their friends. "Counselor," Santos replied, "I have a counteroffer for you. Take your fleet and leave our space. Go back to the council and tell them that humanity chooses its own friends. We don't abandon people just because others are afraid of them. You are making a mistake that will cost your species everything, warned. We offer you a place among the great civilizations of the galaxy. Do not throw that away for a handful of artificial beings. Those artificial beings are our friends, our neighbors, our family, Santos said firmly. They helped us build better ships and better worlds. They shared their knowledge and their culture with us. In return, we gave them what the galaxy never would. We gave them respect. She paused and looked around her bridge at the mixed crew of humans, and working together with perfect coordination. But this isn't really about them, is it? This is about the fact that humanity refuses to let you decide who deserves to exist and who doesn't. You understand nothing about galactic order, replied angrily. There are rules, balances, traditions that keep civilization stable. Your chaos threatens everything we have built. Our chaos, Santos laughed. Counselor, in 2 years we have solved problems that your stable civilization couldn't fix in centuries. We have turned a dead world into a paradise. We have developed technologies that your greatest scientists said were impossible. We did all of that by working with people you threw away. The conversation was interrupted by a new voice on the communications channel. Admiral Santos, this is 9 aboard the new Geneva defense platform. We are detecting additional ships approaching the system. Unknown configuration, but they are not broadcasting council codes. Santos felt her heart skip a beat. More enemies. Her tactical computers were already running worst-case scenarios when the new ships came into visual range. They were unlike anything she had ever seen. Organic curves mixed with crystalline structures and flowing metal surfaces. Beautiful and strange and completely alien to anything in council databases. This is Captain of the Vagrant Fleet, came a new transmission. We request permission to enter human space. Santos had heard of the Vagrant Fleet in reports from deep space traders. They were outcasts like the species that had been exiled or had chosen to leave council space rather than conform to galactic standards. Pirates, rebels, artificial intelligences, and stranger things that most civilizations preferred to pretend did not exist. Permission granted, Santos said immediately. Welcome to human space. Over the next hour, the impossible happened. Ships continued to arrive from across the galaxy. Not just the Vagrant Fleet, but vessels from dozens of species that had been rejected, ignored, or pushed to the margins of galactic society. They came in small groups and alone, adding their strength to humanity's cause. Watch the growing fleet with visible alarm. What is this? Who are these people? These are the species you forgot, Santos replied. The ones you decided weren't worth your time. The outcasts, the rebels, the different ones. They heard that humanity welcomes everyone, and they came to see if it was true. You cannot possibly believe that this collection of misfits and criminals can stand against the combined might of the Galactic Council. Santos looked at her tactical display. The numbers were still against them, but not by as much as before. More importantly, she could see something in the formation of the newcomer ships that gave her hope. They were moving together like they had trained for this moment. The outcasts of the galaxy had found each other and learned to work as one. Counselor, she said, activating a broadcast that would reach every ship in the system and every council world in the galaxy. I want to tell you about my friend 9. 2 years ago, she stood before your council and begged for the right to exist. You told her that she and her people were abominations that had no place in civilized space. Santos called up images on the main screen as she spoke. Pictures of New Geneva, of human and children playing together, of the wonders they had built working side by side. Today, 9 helps run a world that feeds millions and produces technologies that benefit every species on it. Her people have saved countless lives with their medical knowledge. They have solved engineering problems that your best scientists thought impossible. They are teachers, artists, engineers, parents, and friends. The images changed to show other species that had found refuge in human space. The silicon-based crystalline collective that the Council had declared too alien to communicate with. The uploaded consciousness of the digital nation that other species feared as soulless machines. The genetically modified adapters who had been exiled for changing themselves to survive harsh worlds. All of these people were thrown away by the galaxy, Santos continued. You decided they were too strange, too different, too dangerous to exist, but we looked at them and saw potential. We saw knowledge we could learn from, perspectives we had never considered, solutions to problems we didn't know we had. She paused and looked directly into the camera. The question I have for you, counselor, is simple. What else has the galaxy thrown away? What other wonders have you lost because you chose fear over curiosity? Across the Council fleet, something remarkable began to happen. Ships that had been locked in tight formation began to drift apart. Individual vessels powered down their weapons and requested permission to communicate with the human fleet. "This is Captain of the hegemony vessel Talon's Edge," came one transmission. We would like to know more about how your hybrid technologies work." "This is Commander Yill of the ship Ancient Memory," came another. "My daughter has a genetic condition that your medical technologies might be able to help with." More voices joined in. Council ship crews who had heard Santos' words and started to question what they had been told. Scientists who wanted to study the new technologies. Families who had sick children that human medicine might be able to save. Watched his fleet begin to dissolve into individual ships making individual choices. "You are destroying the natural order of things," he said, but his voice lacked the conviction it had carried before. "No," Santos replied gently. "We're replacing your artificial order with something better. We're building a galaxy where different doesn't mean dangerous, where being unusual means being valuable, where everyone gets a chance to prove their worth." She gestured to the mixed fleet around her. "Look at what we've accomplished in just 2 years. Look at the people who have come to join us. This is what the galaxy could be if you stop being afraid of change." The standoff continued for 3 more days. Some Council ships left to return home and report what they had seen. Others asked permission to dock at human stations to learn more about the new technologies. A few even requested asylum, their crews tired of the rigid rules and endless fears of Council space. In the end, departed with less than half the fleet he had brought. As his ship prepared to jump to hyperspace, he sent one final message. "You have won today, Admiral Santos, but change is dangerous. The galaxy has been stable for thousands of years because we maintain proper boundaries. I hope you understand what you have unleashed." "I do," Santos replied. "I've unleashed hope. I've unleashed the possibility that tomorrow can be better than today. I've unleashed the idea that diversity is strength, not weakness." As the Council ships disappeared into hyperspace, Santos looked around at the incredible variety of vessels that had chosen to stay. Ships from dozens of species that had never worked together before, all united by a single idea. The idea that everyone deserved a chance. "Admiral," called 9 from the communications station, "we are receiving requests for asylum from 17 different species, and there are more ships approaching from beyond the rim. Word is spreading that humanity offers sanctuary to anyone willing to work for the common good." Santos smiled and settled back into her captain's chair. "Then, I guess we better start building more worlds. It looks like our little corner of the galaxy is about to get a lot more crowded." In the months that followed, human space became something unique in galactic history. A place where difference was celebrated rather than feared. Where outcasts became citizens and exiles became contributors. Where the impossible happened every day because no one had told the people living there that it couldn't be done. And across the galaxy, on worlds where conformity had always been the rule, people began to ask a dangerous question. If humanity could accept anyone, Why couldn't they? The galaxy would never be the same again. And that, Santos thought, was exactly as it should be.